Hello to all of our listeners out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 26 of the Canadian Patriot podcast, recorded on May 2nd, 2016. I'm your host, Andrew. I'm a libertarian competitive shooter, gear reviewer at everydaytactical.com, and a gun club director. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit canadianpatriotpodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com. We're also looking for 5-star reviews for the iTunes. Remember, if you leave a 5-star review on iTunes, you're allowed to suggest something for Gavin to drink within reason, no Bear Grylls stuff, and he will likely drink it. You're also allowed to suggest something for me to drink, but I do what I want. The edited audio version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes, as well as through our website at canadianpatriotpodcast.com. I'd also like to thank everybody that helped like the show's Facebook page on facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. We've managed to beat the International Liberty or Death podcast by 3 whole likes. So if you haven't already liked the show on Facebook, please go ahead and give us that little like button. We don't post very much on there. It's just to let you know when the new shows are coming out and when we're live on Monday nights at 9 p.m. on the YouTube. Now, joining me tonight, we have a special guest. This is Ryan.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name's Ryan. I'm a geek. I look after computers and stuff for a living. Politically engaged, and the last couple of years I've decided to take a little bit more active role in politics in Canada, and become outspoken and actively involved in various both Facebook and face-to-face conversations regarding everything from individual rights to right through not individual rights and taking those away. So it's been interesting.
Right on. And I understand that you're suffering from a serious lack of alcohol, even though this is a drinking show.
Yeah, there seems to be a alcohol shortage. My potato cider did not come through in time tonight. So iced tea is all I've got. A little bit of caffeine. I might make it.
That'll work. I've got my James Ready 5.5 because I think I'm going to steal something that Marty said on the show. There's better beer, but there's not cheaper beer. I'd also like to remind all of our listeners about our contest that's going on right now. If you'd like to submit a new logo for Canadian Patriot Podcast, we'll be accepting your submissions via email or through the Facebook until the end of May. The first 2 weeks of June, we'll post all of the entries into Facebook for voting. The winning design, or the owner of the winning design, will receive a free t-shirt because, yes, we're going to make t-shirts. I understand that's what you have to do as a podcast now. All right, so we don't have any news this evening. We'll go right into the main topic of the show, which is what Ryan is joining us for. We're going to be talking about censorship by political parties. So I guess specifically, this is dealing with the Wild Rose Party, right?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, okay. So Ryan, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about your experience with what the Wild Rose Party is asking of you and what brought that about?
All right. So the Wild Rose Party is, just because I know this is not just an Alberta show, the Wild Rose Party has been a right-leaning party since its inception. It's been was very freedom-based, very freedom of speech, freedom of association, et cetera, et cetera. And it struck me as very, very odd. About a week ago, I got a notice from the community association president that said that, hey, I was on your Facebook page. I don't like what you have. We're going to ask you to step down from the constituency association executive. And I was a little bit taken back. I've got a fairly active Facebook page. I make my views about Islam known. Just a bit of a spoiler, I'm not a fan. And the reality is I don't see any need for it in our advanced society. And he didn't like the idea that I was on the executive and sharing this information.
Okay, so this is the executive for your like riding association then?
That's correct. Yeah, I can't even remember what my position was, but I was advised because I was on the executive that this wasn't going to fly.
So this wasn't on a Wild Rose website or their Facebook page or something to do with your local riding association. This was your personal Facebook page.
This is my personal Facebook page.
And as the president of your riding association, he feels that he has the authority to tell you what you are and are not allowed to post.
That's correct. He justified it as the NDP are on our pages looking for ammunition to discredit the Wild Rose for whatever reason. And he was concerned that the posts could be construed as racist. Of course, we know the validity of that when it comes to Islam. And it could be viewed as intolerant.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective that he has, since it's a religion and not a race, so it's a little bit difficult to be racist. Yeah. But okay, sure. Do you want to tell our listeners what you wrote that brought this all about?
I can, yes. Let's let me pull it up here. Yeah. Of course, I clicked off right here. Where did it go?
That's okay. Through the magic of editing, we'll make this sound amazing.
Right on, right on. All right, so I met a new friend today. He's quite interesting. A little bit about him. He's 32, just arrived in Canada. He regularly has intercourse with young boys because that prevents him from wanting intercourse with another man's wife. His wife, by the way, is 13, and they're eagerly trying for their first child. He's had a bit of a rough past. His mother was only 12 when she had him and passed her in a delivery. He was conceived by rape, but it was her fault she was raped. He's lucky to have survived, but is glad his mother died during the delivery because she was unclean. I'm going to join him at his church, he calls it a mosque, next Saturday. They're going to teach about his God named Allah, who he attempts to live like. He wanted me not to speak poorly of Allah because he'd cut my head off if he hears of it. Apparently, I'm committed to joining the church too, and if I leave or don't join, I insult Allah, thus losing my head. Such a nice fellow. He warned me today to not eat my lunch as it has pork in it, and if I consume it, it will make me unclean and unworthy of my reward in the afterlife. Which, by the way, looks like things appear, by the looks of things, it may appear sooner rather than later, given all the ways I could end up staring back at my neck from the ground. I'm so excited. I'm glad we get to meet people like this and learn about their culture.
Okay, so I can see why some people would be shocked by this post. I think this is a hypothetical, right? You don't actually have this new friend.
No, it was completely. I was riding on the train and I was thinking about Islam. I was thinking about what does Islam mean in our society, and I just rattled this off as an off the cuff. Didn't think too much about it. Post and posted online.
And what was the reaction that you were expecting that you'd get from your Facebook friends?
If you were to rate it on the like bar, a lot of angry. A lot of my friends are anti-Islam, and of course, I view an angry post on that as somewhat in support of it. Sure. I wasn't expecting too many people to come out and say, well, that's not very nice. I was expecting somebody to challenge me on it. Unfortunately, what happened is I got an email back from one of the board members stating that the Constituency Association president had made his way over to the page and had read this, and he wanted it taken down immediately, and for me to resign from the executive on the Constituency Association because the NDP were looking at
it. Do you know if anyone else in your riding association or in the Wild Rose Party, for that matter, has been approached by any of the other executive members or anyone else in the party at some point in the past to have similar types of speech censored? Or are you sort of the front runner for this prize?
I think I might be a front runner. I don't. I'm having a hard time gauging, and I attempted to reach out to Derek Filbrand. I attempted to reach out to I attempted to reach out to the wildrose.ca site itself to get somebody from within the workings of the party to contact me back outside of the auspices of the community association to get some sort of ruling on their position of free speech. Now, I'll admit, this post it's pushing all sorts of buttons. But if you don't want to be offended, you shouldn't be on the internet.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We have people that I regularly ask to send me hate mail. So,
well, the beautiful thing about Facebook, and well, really anything, whether it be an online forum or an old BBS style thread, the beautiful thing about this is if you don't like it, you're a half a page scroll away from getting it gone. It doesn't affect you anymore. And then there's people that take it upon themselves to say, no, you shouldn't be saying that.
So I've kind of talked about this a little bit before on the show, this whole notion of people being offended and then thinking that gives them some sort of a right to make other people change their behavior to suit them. And it's my opinion that being offended just means that you really only have two choices. You either need to say something or you need to move on, which I think is absolutely perfect with how you described how the internet works. Yep. You're half a page scrolling away from not seeing it anymore.
Yeah, and I post that quite frequently on my page. This is probably a little bit further than I've gone in the past, but I, as I mentioned to you, don't like Islam, don't have any time for Islam, don't like socialism, don't have any time for socialism. To me, they're kind of the same thing. And I post a lot of anti-socialism, and especially in recent months, anti-Trudeau stuff. And I post on my page quite frequently. If you don't like what I have on my page, if you don't want to see it, you've got two options. You can unfriend me or unfollow me. And I've got two family members. I've got one family member that has unfriended me and one that I know of that has unfollowed me. And my heart is not hurt. And that's family. So I really don't care.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that more people didn't have that ability to not care so much about things that offend them. That they're that delicate that seeing something on the internet upsets them so much.
If I was that delicate, I honestly don't think I would have made it this far in my life. You know, to me, if you are that easily swayed and that easily made to cry because of something that you read on the internet that wasn't nice to somebody else, and you don't even have the information or the ability to challenge it. I was actually hoping somebody would challenge me on this post, to post out there and say, hey, Mike, that's not right. This is not wrong, or this is not in line with the Quran. This is not in line with the Quran. This is not in line with the Quran. Nobody posted that. Nobody came to me and said, this does not follow what Islam is. It's incorrect. You should take it down. The only response was, it's offensive. Get rid of it.
Yeah, being offended is not a valid option. You can say something back or you can move on. That's your choices. So yeah, just simply being offended isn't enough. So no one actually has challenged you on the validity of any of the points you made, whether they're true or false. Just that the only meaningful reaction from anyone has been through your writing association, they want you to resign and stop being a member of the party.
Well, not exactly. The president got in touch via another member that I have a relationship with, friendship with, and I was told to take it down, and it was recommended via this member that I resign from my executive position, and they would drop the issue. and I told them to fuck off.
That's fair. So they also didn't actually challenge anything in the post, just that, hey, we think you're making us look bad, so stop doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Their position was somebody might not like it. Somebody's feelings might be hurt. Take it down. So I challenged them back. I said, nope, you know what? I'm not. I had already taken it down because the first response startled me, was not what I was expecting, and I reacted. But my view of free speech came in, and I started thinking about this, and the thoughts of censorship and the thoughts of the Wild Rose Party getting away with censorship bothered me. So I said no. I went back to the party and I said, in my resignation email that I was supposed to send my president, I said, I withhold my resignation. I want to take this to a Wild Rose Committee, and I want the Wild Rose Committee to make a decision. Either I'm clear or I'm fired. Either or. I don't want to be sticking around in the community association with he backed down once, he's going to back down again if we start pressuring him, because I don't do that. If I believe in something, I stand by it. And this was a conviction that I felt I needed to stand by.
That's fair. I mean, this is a pretty slippery slope argument. If they start censoring one thing, then what are they going to censor next, right?
Not only that, it sets a precedent. It allows them to use basically case law. They say, well, we censored Ryan because he posted something against Islam. He took it down. He was forced to resign his post on the executive, but he stayed on the party. But I want an actual case to be put in the Wild Rose box to say they're pro-censorship or pro-free speech.
Right, they can't have it both ways.
No, it has to be one way or the other. So to me, if this precedent has not been set, I think in the position where they are likely to form government for the next election, this precedent needs to be set, and it needs to be shared to ensure that people understand, yes, we will stand behind your rights, or no, we'd rather everybody feel real happy about themselves.
That seems pretty counterintuitive to, like, I've not lived in Alberta, but I've read a fair bit about the Wild Rose Party, and this kind of strikes me as very outside of the norm for their party, because they are considered one of the more right-leaning parties in the country. So I would think that they would definitely be falling into the more pro-freedom, pro-free speech side of an argument.
And that's why I'm pushing it to the Wild Rose Party for them to assess. I don't know. I'm considering that the issue may be confined to the constituency association and their handling of the situation, which I know there are some more left-leaning people in the party than others, but I do believe that those left-leaning individuals, at least at this time, are not the rule.
Fair enough. So what are your next steps now? You've told your riding president that you're withholding your resignation. Has the party gotten back to you about that, the review process that you've requested? Yeah,
they mandated the next constituency association meeting, which is actually this Thursday. I am to appear before them, make my case for them in person or in paper, which I refuse to do on paper. Make my case before them, and they will pass judgment. And basically, I've said in my prepared statement that it's real simple. Either you support free speech, and you can try to convince me that this post was wrong, and my mind might change. My mind might believe you. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll take it down. But I will not for a moment be censored by a party that claims to be a cross between a conservative and a libertarian.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good way to approach that situation. How does that review voting process work? Is that just like the executive of the writing association that weighs in on that, or?
My understanding is it will the review process will consist of, I think it's 4 people. I would have been the 5th on the executive. I think it is the makeup of it. I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to vote for or against myself, of course, but that will be decided at that time, and we'll figure out. I'm not sure if the cards are going to be stacked against me. I'm not sure if I'm going to completely waste my time by doing this, but I think it's going to be a very, very interesting exercise in democracy to see how things are handled.
Certainly, I'd like to see what happens after Thursday. Do they have to make their decision right then and there, or is there a deliberation period? Like, will you know when you leave how it's been decided?
I'm hoping I'll know when I leave, but I'm suspecting if I know when I leave, I won't like the answer.
Yeah, I could see that being an issue for sure.
If they're needing hours to talk about it or something like that, then I've obviously hit a nerve, and somebody isn't agreeing with the nerve. If, however, it's like, nope, he's written up, he's gone, he's done. We don't believe this is a free speech issue, which, in all reality, and I've already had this thrown at me, it's not technically a free speech issue. This is not government preventing me from speaking my mind. This is a political party governing me, preventing me from speaking my mind.
It's an interesting dichotomy that they're pointing out.
So, just like your employer, I don't know where you work or if you work, but if you say something online, your employer can fire you for it if they don't like it. And there's nothing about having free speech or any right to free speech that can prevent them from firing you. It can, however, prevent RCMP or local police or that branch from taking action against you, because that would be violating your rights.
The part of that I have the concern with is that these are the people that want to try and form a government that would be in charge of those, RCMP and police type people.
Exactly, and that's why that was one of the biggest things that pushed me, not quite over the edge, but to the point of wanting to really challenge them, because I do believe that whatever comes out of this, it's either going to be real good or real bad to them. For the real, if they say no, free speech doesn't matter, Ryan, you're gone, then realistically, people need to know that, because people like me, and I consider myself part libertarian, part conservative, who have a stake and a value placed on our rights. I chose these guys over the Alberta PC party because of their freedom orientation. And if they aren't that freedom orientation, I need to rethink where I am on the political parties.
Well, I think that has pretty big implications for a lot of members of the Wild Rose Party. I don't, for me, as someone who's not in Alberta, if they were to say that they have the ability to censor their members from posting certain things online that they think someone may be upset by, I question their ability to form a reasonable government in that province.
Well, what shocked me even more was their lack of ownership of their response. We are concerned that the NDP may turn this against us. So in response, we are going to censor our member from stating his own opinion on his own personal social media page, because we're not willing to defend him. And again, that's what them deciding to censor me is really saying. They're afraid of the NDP.
which is interesting because as a very left-leaning party, I would think the NDP would be all about censoring people. And if the Wild Rose goes along with this, that puts them in the same camp.
But at
Right?
least as far as the Alberta PC party, if not further left. So now we have 3 left-wing parties. We don't need to unite the right anymore. We just need a right-wing party in Alberta.
Yeah. I'd be surprised that they'd be so willing to give the NDP exactly what I would think the NDP would be after. If this is their big concern, that the NDP is looking to use this as ammunition to say, how terrible the Wild Rose Party is, because look at this one example of somebody posting their opinion on a Facebook page. They must be awfully concerned about the power that the NDP wields.
Yeah. And it bothers me, because if they're that afraid when they're not in government, if they're not afraid when they're at the helm, or sorry, if they're that afraid when they're not at the helm, how afraid of public opinion are they going to be when they are at the helm? And what rights are they going to trample on of their members and of other Albertans whom support them, who allow them to form government, if they say something that isn't in alignment with some media talking head?
Yeah, that poses a whole lot of problems.
So I haven't been able to get a response from a higher up Wild Rose individual, unfortunately. I've emailed Mr. Fildebrand asking him for the Wild Rose Party position on free speech. I've emailed, there's at least one other one I've emailed. I've emailed their went through their contact form on their website asking for the Wild Rose policy position on free speech. And nobody has been able to provide it for me.
That's somewhat disconcerting. You would think that they would want to push that as a right-leaning organization, a right-leaning political party, that they would want, look at how we want to allow everyone to have their rights to free speech and self-expression, and look at how we're not censoring Albertans.
People should be allowed to say what they want and be held to account for what they say by those not in governance of them. For example, of the 160 or whatever friends I've got on Facebook, mostly personal friends, I've got some political associates on there. I would tend to think if it was an issue in the 6 or 8 hours that it was online, one of them would have posted on there saying, Mike, that's just not, or sorry, Ryan, that's just not cool. Right? Stated a case, might have taken it down, might not have. But it should have been my discretionary call.
Oh, absolutely. It's yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's something that you say on your personal Facebook page. I mean, you're responsible for that, but it's also your personal Facebook page. It's not like you went on your Writing Association's Facebook page as an administrator and posted it as the Wild Rose Writing Association that you're in.
I'm not even associated with the Writing Association Facebook page.
Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty big step for them to be making, that you're doing this and it's making us look bad, or it may make us look bad because someone's feelings may get hurt.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole lot of maze going on. I don't see a lot of things that there's any validity to what your writing president's saying, that anyone's actually been offended by this. I mean, maybe his delicate sensibilities, but outside of that.
And that's just it. If there was, a number of my Facebook contacts online saying, hey, that's just not cool, you shouldn't post that, and it was, and I was telling them to take a hike or whatever. Okay, if they see that, maybe they've got a leg to stand on based on popular vote, let's call it.
Sure.
But there wasn't even a response to it. People were simply looking at it. It probably got people a little bit wrong in reading it, and they did the mature thing and they scrolled past it. Didn't spend another second on it, and that was it. So to me, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's a maturity thing. I don't know if it's a fear thing. I think there's a big part of it in fear, but I think it's misplaced fear.
Where would you say that misplaced fear is, like in offending the left leaning everyone is equal group, or like
What might people think? What might maybe the media get a hold of it? I don't even know if the media could make a link to it, honestly.
I mean, I'm sure they could. I mean, the soundbite would be Wild Rose Party member says inflammatory anti-Islamic statement on Facebook. That's probably still too long. You got to get it down to like less than 10 words, but you know what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Like, but that's the only link they could make is like Wild Rose Party member says anti-Islamic thing, right? Like there's...
It really doesn't have a ring to it, does it? It doesn't have that media sales pitch.
Well, no, but that's what I mean. You got to get it down to that couple of 10 words, 2 seconds of soundbite to make it. But their only link is that you're a member of the party, because they can't say they could say. I shouldn't say they can't say, because they're the media. They can say anything, just like anybody on the internet can say anything. But as responsible journalists, they shouldn't say, for example, Wild Rose Party is anti-Islam, and then cite that as their reasoning, because one member posted a personal commentary on their own social media. It'd be like I say, this would be different if you were posting on like your riding association's Facebook page or like an official party website or something like that, because then I could see them drawing a very clear link between the two.
Oh, absolutely. That to me would rate up with sabotage.
Oh, absolutely. But to draw the link between an individual's personal perspective, their own opinion, and the policy of a political party, that's a pretty big leap, even for the most left-leaning media outlets in our country.
So here's a very, very interesting angle to this. I'm not only a member of the Wild Rose Party, I'm also a member of the NDP party.
That is an interesting set of choices. How does that get reconciled?
I've only been approached by the Wild Rose Party about this. NDP party have never said anything.
Okay, so I've got to know why. Why are you a member of both the Wild Rose and the NDP?
Have you ever heard
those are very, very different sets of political ideologies.
My bipolar kicked in one night and I bought an NDP membership.
Is this like keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Is that where this is going?
Do you know the name George Clark from Alberta?
Yes, he rings a bell for me.
He is the president and only sitting member from the Alberta Party.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you.
I have bought a NDP membership for his use at his disposal, should he decide to do something with it. And he has a large number of other members, of other Albertans in the same situation. We've gone out, we bought a $1 NDP membership when they were doing their membership drive to get a vote on the NDP party.
Interesting.
I don't know if anything will ever come of it. I feel dirty having it. But I think it may be going out and buying a Canadian Liberal membership just so I could feel all sorts of awfulness.
I mean, however you want to spend your free time and money, I guess. It's a weird hobby, to be sure.
Yeah, I like to keep life interesting.
So, does the NDP, or the Wild Rose for that matter, up until now, because they're going to know about this if they listen to the podcast. I mean, everyone at the RCMP will know about this because the RCMP and CSIS regularly listen to the show.
Oh, exciting.
But do you imagine that this is something that either of the parties already knew that you were a member of? I guess the Wild Rose knows because you're an executive on one of your writing associations. Do you think the NDP knows who you are or what you post or has any interest in you?
The NDP have access to the membership records of every party. Basically, every party has membership records of every other party in Alberta. So yes, they no doubt have records of the fact that if they can draw lines between them and connect the individuals signing up, I don't know if they have somebody in the back room making those connections or not. My name is somewhat common, could be overlooked.
Okay. I mean, that seems...
It's conflict of interest, maybe, but nobody's called me on it yet.
Interesting.
They might after this, but...
Yeah. I'd like to see if they do, if anybody puts the connection together there and takes any issue with it, because I mean, I have done the dirty thing of signing up for opposing political party. Well, I shouldn't say opposing, because every political party is opposing to my personal views, but I've signed up for political parties that I really have a very strong dislike for, simply so I can see what they're sending to their membership.
Oh, I get the emails on a regular basis to my inbox regarding what the NDP are doing, and I think the last one was a spring dance that they were holding. It's actually quite entertaining. It kind of feels like I'm in high school again.
Does all the boys stand on the one side and the girls stand on the other? Is that?
I didn't go to it. I didn't want to be arrested for getting into an argument or something like that.
It's probably a wise choice. I've said on the show before why I'm not allowed to be in politics is because I would challenge people to duels, and those are illegal in this country.
Yeah, that's true. I think it would have been fun, but I don't think it would have done my any hopes of possibly a political involvement any good on any level.
That's fair. I can appreciate that. That's interesting that the Wild Rose Party was so concerned about how you may offend someone, and the NDP may use it as ammunition, and the NDP didn't acknowledge that you exist.
No, they don't acknowledge that I exist, and what was really interesting, really, when you look at it, the NDP party, take them just at their most macro level, the NDP party the Wild Rose Party wants to censor my personal opinion on personal Facebook page. The NDP party either doesn't want to censor or doesn't care. Regardless, which one's coming out looking a little bit more freedom-based than the other in this case?
I'm not going to go so far as to say that the NDP is actually ahead in that argument, because a lack of contact for one specific example doesn't necessarily mean that they are in any way more free speech.
Oh, no, I understand that, but the optics of it, which again,
certainly
was a term brought up by my constituency association president. The optics of it are very interesting.
Yes, it does. For a very outside perspective, it does make it look, if you don't look at this as an anomalous occurrence, if this is how the Wild Rose treats everything, and this is how the NDP treats everything when it comes to freedom of speech, the NDP definitely comes out with the rosier look.
They certainly have that ability. I don't know if this is another accident or oopsie or maybe I don't rate high enough on their care factor, but yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested to know if they decided to contact you at some point, now that this is going to become, I would hope, relatively public knowledge, because I very much hope that you publish this information to as many people that are members of the Wild Rose as possible, so that they understand where their party stands on this issue once it's resolved.
Oh, absolutely. I have no intentions of beating the hook ahead of time. I want it to be a independent and free review. I anticipate this may go live before the review actually happens, but I don't anticipate there's going to be enough Wild Rose members reading it and getting involved right away. I do, however, anticipate once the decision is made, I plan on sharing this link quite extensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you back on after you've got your outcome sorted out, so that we can see what's happened and how they've ruled on this.
So absolutely, it will be publicly sure. I hold no shame in standing up for my rights and everybody else's rights that are currently a member of the Wild Rose Party. And that's the position that I view this under. If I don't stand up for my rights, if I don't push back and say no, that's not right, every other member that gets challenged in the future will have case law against them that they successfully squashed without challenge my freedom of speech.
Yeah, that's
And
a very positive way to look at this.
it has to be decided. And I haven't been able to get a response from the party if it has been decided because nobody's emailed me back.
I'm kind of surprised by that. I would think that the Wild Rose would come out and say very strongly that we are in favor of free speech. And I don't think there would be a lot of internal debate in the party about where our policy sits on this. I would think that somebody would be, yes, we are pro free speech. That is a thing that we support.
I would hope so.
I mean, I don't see a need for a lot of internal debate for that. They are or they aren't, and I would think they would already know where they sit on the matter.
I would hope so. It seems to be just the way it's been handled so far, a bit of a quagmire of, well, we're not quite sure right now.
That's suspect at best. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell our listeners about what this situation is, or what your plans are, or should we check back in with you once you find out when once they've made a decision about if the Wild Rose is actually pro free speech or not?
We're just gonna have a quick look at the email here, make sure that I didn't skip over anything.
Sure, yeah.
Actually, what would be good, if you guys don't mind, if I can just rattle off this email, should summarize everything quite summarily for you. And I'm interested in what your listeners' opinion of it is as well. I presume this will be posted on YouTube, like you mentioned. There will be comment sections underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that this works, the show is live on YouTube on Monday nights at 9 o'clock. There is, just like any YouTube video, there is a comments at the bottom. We have a live chat going. There is no one live chatting with us this evening. We do have a couple of people watching live, and we would like to thank them for that. And as soon as the show is done, it will be on YouTube for perpetuity. It is there forever. It does not go away. It doesn't change. There's nothing weird that happens. All of the cuss words get left in. And then the edited version of the audio show will be out on Wednesday, barring any issues with the editing process, which I don't foresee, since we've only managed to say a couple of cuss words. It shouldn't take too long to edit. And then anyone that wants to get in touch with us about the edited version of the show can send us feedback either through email or Facebook or on the show website.
All right. So if you're okay, I'll rattle this off. It's just a few paragraphs and
Certainly, go for it.
get your readers' opinions. I've been a relatively active Wild Rose supporter, contributing to the election campaign of Mark Manty with his door-to-door efforts over a number of days. I've raised awareness and been a public advocate of the Wild Rose efforts to establish recall legislation, mustering in excess of 57,000 Change.org supporters in Alberta. I consider myself a libertarian of sorts, believing that personal freedom is a key metric in any society or group. I understand that to have freedom, you must have people willing to sacrifice heavily in the efforts of defense of those liberties, as I have done during my 12 years of combat arms reservist service with the Royal Canadian Armored Corps. I believe my service was to a freedom-loving population, and that my service was in noble defense of that. I understand accountability and consider myself accountable to those who hold the authority over me in the domain for which they hold that authority. I believe that freedom of speech and the written word, while it should not be censored by any overreigning authority, should meet one's own personal standards for properties, and content. I'm before you today to explain my post that has caught the attention of the Community Association President via an undisclosed source. This post content in question was posted by myself and expressed my personal views of Islam, placed in a first-person hypothetical context. My Facebook page contains family members, libertarian supporters, and various accountability supporters. My Facebook page is provisioned under Ryan Varga, using my middle name to create obfuscation between any professional and or political activities. I frequently post a unfriend or unfollow me if you can't handle my posts like an adult and choose to be offended at advisements. I have family members who have done just that. I have strong views against Islam, both politically and spiritually, and express those views on my Facebook page. I do not submit to political correctness nor request to pussyfoot around the Islamic subject. My beef is directly with Islam, as it drives and authorizes the atrocities we hear about daily around the world. I have not, nor will I ever call out any individual who practices Islam. I believe in the herd mentality when dealing with Islamic followers and directly attack their superiority declarations and exemptions from our laws and charters of rights and freedoms in Canada. I regularly read the Quran to educate myself on its content, hoping I may find a consistent source of peaceful and tolerant direction. I've learned through my reading that the only peace we'll have with Islam is to submit to Islam. Any professed desire for peace, per the Quran, is solely to buy time to engage in political Islam and convert by stealth an existing legal system into Sharia, the ultimate goal of Islam and death of democracy. My Facebook page has never been reported to Facebook, to my knowledge, and I pride myself on pushing the envelope, both online and in person, to challenge people's comfort zones on various topics. I believe that mainstream media and left-wing activists have intentionally removed Islamic references to atrocities that happen to protect and attract their core voter base. A recent survey I saw reported that 75% of Islamic followers voted for the Liberal Party, who is on the same team as the mainstream media. I believe the truth is often hidden and requires critical analysis before accepting any delivered message. Critical analysis, which many Canadians are incapable of or too lazy to undertake. I had until recently considered the Wild Rose Party of Alberta to be a principled, right-wing, freedom-loving, patriot-esque party that was between the Alberta PC, which I define as lib/central, and the Libertarian movement, which is hard-right. My constituency association's response to my post, wanting to censor and control my personal Facebook page, repositioned the Wild Rose Party much closer to the Alberta PC, with a branch reaching over into NDP territory to control what he felt may be appropriate on my personal non-Wild Rose affiliated page. Encroaching on my liberties out of fear of question by the left is giving in to what they want for free. I had expected if anyone, friend, political affiliate, etc., had an issue with my post, they would reply to it publicly or privately and place their position in written word, allowing for a healthy debate on the validity of each position. Instead, without all the information, I was informed by the Constituency Association president that decisions were made in a vacuum and requested I resign my position from the Community Association board. I responded irrationally at the time, taking down the post without considering the encroachment on my freedom of speech and liberties it was executing. It appears the Wild Rose Party has decided to choose freedom-crushing, interfering direction out of fear of concern for the party's judgment, when the party should be pushing back against the left, standing up for freedom and liberty, unlike the Alberta PC party. The move to censor destroyed the Alberta PC party, leading to the uprise of the Wild Rose Party. The party appears to have been infiltrated by left-leaning, manipulated by political correctness, freedom-hating members. If the Wild Rose do not represent freedom and low government organization interference in one's personal dealings, to the point of dictating what I can and cannot post on my personal Facebook page, and must request my membership be cancelled, as the party does not represent my requirements to form government with my support. The Wild Rose Party represent freedom from outrageous political correctness and the refusal to censor membership pages. I'll gladly remain a member of the Wild Rose Party with renewed conviction that I chose the right party.
I think that sums it up nicely. That's
it's a few more paragraphs than than I thought it was.
no, that's all right. I think that sums it up pretty well. Do you have anything else for our listeners tonight, Ryan?
No, you know what? I appreciate the opportunity to air this and get it out and heard. And I certainly challenge anybody that believes that their free speech has been attempted to be taken to not put up with it. Don't do the irrational thing and immediately give in. Think about it first.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very good piece of advice for our listeners. If there is anyone that's out there that has anything that they'd like either in favor of or against what Ryan has said and how he's handling the situation, if they'd like to get in touch with us, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com is the best place to send that email, and I will make sure that it gets delivered. Ryan, once you've got your outcome from your meeting on Thursday, if you'd like to let me know, I'd love to have you back on to hear how that went.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we keep everybody up to date. And then our small way of touching the Alberta community and letting everyone that was considering voting for the Wild Rose Party know where they stand on the issue of free speech. Before we start closing out the show, we do not have any rapid fire feedback this week, so there is no feedback. If you'd like to leave feedback on the show, the best place to do that is on the Facebook at at facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast, or by visiting the show's website at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback. Remember, I love your hate mail, so make sure you send that to feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. And in your hate mail, make sure you include exactly how the show offended you and why you feel that I need to use trigger warnings for something you see on the internet. Is there a good place for people to stay in touch with you, Ryan? Or is the best place to email the show and then I'll pass it on to you for now?
Probably via you, because,
okay.
Yeah, probably the smartest.
Fair enough. So if you want to send your comments to Ryan or support or questions, feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, and I'll make sure those get out to him. We're going to give a shout out to Gavin and Tyler this week. Tyler was off hunting turkeys and is hopefully recuperating. And Gavin is away in New Orleans partying. I mean, working. So he wasn't able to be with us this evening. As always, my name is Andrew. You can find all of my work on everydaytactical.com or on Instagram and Twitter at edtactical. For our listeners that haven't given us the 5-star review yet on iTunes, I'd like to remind everyone that iTunes is the best place for new listeners to find the show, and those 5-star reviews, well, they will also get Gavin drunk, do really help us out with finding new listeners. And I have a new podcast in my sights, so if we could get a few more likes, I'll let everybody know who our next target's going to be to surpass. With that, we'd like to remind our listeners, like we do every week, that you are the true north, strong and free.